I can hear
Hey,
you,
Larry.
Joe. I can.
Hey, welcome
Hi,
to the
Joe. Can you
guild.
hear me?
I can, yes, sir.
Well, thank you, Joe.
Awesome,
Can you hear
awesome.
me?
Yes,
Perfect.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, Larry, first thing I always think about when I create a framework is when I look back on it a few years, I think, oh, I could have done this better. I should have done this different. Looking back on your framework, is there anything you would have done differently? Just
I
curious.
mean, I wouldn't say done differently at this point, but what I want to do is see that as a new framework, and it's just like say, well, just like 2 years old and one year or so in the public domain. I think I want to as I go along, I want to add and redefine how I do certain things in it. So yeah, I'll be making some changes in the near future.
Awesome. All right, Larry, we have our first question. Let's get to it. It is from Chung, and Chung wants to know, building a test framework with WebdriverIO, we currently have a basic WebdriverIO framework. Is klassi-js a good example framework model for our team to build a framework similar to it? Or is it something we could use by adding element locators and API service endpoints?
I'm not too sure how I read the question, but what I can say is, yes, you could use the framework. Yeah, you could just use framework as is out of the box, as we say. There's already the API functionality built in it. So it's a matter, if you look, it's called the API call function, and from there you will now be able, you could run all the API stuff. It does the whole get, put, delete, and push for it already. But in a sense, yes, it's like any other. I will say it's like any other framework on the market where you just take it and adapt it to suit your needs.
Very good. All right, Larry, next question. This is from Andy. And Andy wants to know, given you have multiple projects, people all working on the same repository, all relying on a few rather large global files, I'm interested in your experience with frequent merge conflicts and how you handle it.
I think it's you smiling because that's a very interesting question. And only about 2 days, yeah, it's just about 2 days ago, we had some issues with that. And it's funny enough, it's nothing to do with the framework itself, because the way the framework works, it's the framework more like independent to your project code. So if your project have its own, well, your project runs in two ways. You either have your own repo, or your test code belongs to a folder inside let's say the project, the actual project that you're testing against repo. Now, what we had about 2 days ago was where somebody checked in some code. So what we do was we take the master repo, and your code could only be checked in there via a code review. So you would have, say, you do away with the merge conflicts and stuff. And like I said, it was just 2 days ago we realized that was an issue, and then so we put a stop to it now. So before, you gotta do your code, check it, work for yourself, and do a merge. So, but now you can't do that. So to eliminate, and that was exactly to eliminate that process where multiple people working on it, and so now you do your work, it looks fine to you, and you do a pull request, and then after review, then you get it merged. So that's how we handle that. So yeah, it's just one of those things that it pops up, and we dealt with it.
Awesome. Cool. Very timely. Next question, Larry. It's from EB. EB wants to know, Larry, first, thank you for your awesome presentation. I added awesome because it was awesome. This was actually Larry's first time speaking as well, so give him some props. I think he did an awesome job. You should do more of it. Can you explain why you chose to use WebDriver as a standalone as opposed to using it together with, say, TestNG and Maven?
Marvin. Yeah, actually, yeah, that was one of my reasons for it in its entirety. I decided that when you look at a lot of the boilerplate out there, it's all integrated, and they give you these config files that with fill out and thing. And then to me, I had a look at it, and I look at the ones that WebdriverIO have for themselves, and I tell myself, I think that's a little too. I would use the word complicated. It's not as complicated as such, but it was a little too complicated, and I decided that I wanted to do something differently. And to that effect, I started it, and then I had a little chat with Christian. That's the guy who heads up the WebdriverIO project.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And it was fine. He actually had a little look at it, which was fine for me. And so that's why I decided to do it. So my whole concept was that where I could build all separate modules, do it completely modular, so I could remove things without having any effect on the actual framework itself, or have any effect on the way the framework work alongside. So you find, for want of a better argument at the moment, I could remove, let's assume that somebody create a very nice little node that does API testing completely different to all the others that I have on the market at the moment. All I need to do is take that, integrate it into my framework, and once I don't change the name, which is, it's now called API call, once I don't change that name, then it will just work seamlessly in the framework. So I can literally remove things out and put things in without it having any effect whatsoever on the existing functionality. The aim is just, once I keep the name of the functions the same, then I could just remove things out. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to go in standalone mode, was specifically for that.
Awesome. All right, Larry, next question. They want to know, how's the parallel execution handled in WebdriverIO, and how many threads can be configured?
I mean, that's I have to say, a ticklish question, because at the moment you're looking at it, and because most of our parallelization we do it through browser stack, and the way, and if anybody using browser stack or source lab, they know you just push all your tests and it breaks it down, and it depends on how many threads you have in your subscription. It works like that. Because we could push, as it stands, I could push 100 testers through using all my different browsers, and just run all of them at the same time. So it would take 10 minutes to run it on Chrome. It will take the same 10 minutes to run it on all 10 or 12 browsers, a variation of it out. So I think in this sense is, I can't answer the question to the sense of running it locally and how you will thread it out, because I don't do it that way. The only thing I run locally is when I actually write any code. After that, everything is via my CI functionality. I push everything through Circus CI, which push everything through browser stack, and the browser stack paralyzes all everything in its sense. I think if that doesn't answer the question, then I think that's how I understand it. So that's why I answer that way. If not, if it doesn't answer the question, then I think you might have to rephrase it. But that's how we deal with parallelization.
Awesome. Okay, Larry, next question. And I just want to say again, this has been an awesome group. Thank you so much for your questions. This is great. They keep coming, so thank you so much. This one's from Pradeep. They want to know, what are the differences between WebdriverIO, Serenity, and Cypress? Aren't they all using Selenium in the backend? Well, I know Cypress is not, but WebdriverIO, there are some differences. Good.
Yeah, there are a lot of differences. I honestly can't answer all the question. Honestly, can't answer that question in its entirety. In terms of what's the major difference are, because Serenity, I've never used it. I've had a look at it, but I've never actually used it. And Cypress in itself, I've just had a play around with it, and that's never really go any further to, because it's basically, it only works in Chrome, and that doesn't do, and it will not have done in what we needed to do. So that's the limit of my knowledge to the both of them. So that's a question definitely can't answer further than what I just said.
I can take a quick stab at it. Cypress.io is more for developers, and it's almost like old Selenium IDE, where it only runs in Chrome. It is JavaScript, but it doesn't use Selenium behind the scenes. Serenity acts like a wrapper on top of Selenium and Appium and has built-in reports and a lot of scaffolding that you don't have to code yourself. And WebdriverIO, obviously, it takes care of a lot of things, I think, Larry, like automatic waits, where you don't have to worry about weight. So it does a little bit extra for you on top of Selenium.
Yeah, well, in terms of WebdriverIO, Joe, in terms of WebdriverIO, like I say, as I was trying to explain earlier on, WebDriver in itself, it runs and it covers a lot of stuff behind. So you don't have to like decide how you're going to call the element. You don't have to say, well, I want to look for this element by the ID or by the name or by the partial text. It takes care of all that under the hood. You just find, and it will work out. Oh, when you find the ID, well, let's say the element code, it will work, whereby it would work out under the hood if what you just pass is a CSS name or or a partial text name or something. It does all that on the hood, and then you have the way it does, because it takes, and it also makes use of async await. So it have all these built-in, and it just does it all under the hood for you, the wait times and things like that. And if you're looking at earlier on why I say I created some wait times, and those wait times I only use them if I really actually need a hard code wait for something in particular due to some test. Other than that, you just do you use async await. So you await thing, and it just waits there. And I think if my memory serves me right, the default wait time under the hood is, I think, 3 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, if my memory serves me right.
Awesome. All right, Larry, next question is from Anita. They want to know, do you have any recommended resources, books, websites, etc., for more information on building a custom test automation framework?
Wow, what a question, Anita. That's I'm laughing because the reason why I'm laughing is because I don't. I'm being honest, I don't. Well, like I said, from my point of view, what I did was I just go online and look at all the different frameworks they had, all the different boilerplates they had, and then I decided, you know what, these are all good, but I wanted something slightly different, and that's how I end up writing my own. So what I would suggest is you look at klassi-js, and and you could copy and pattern that, because it's, as it says out there, and you could just check it out. You could what's the word for it? You could clone it and have a play with it, and you can look at some of the other ones out there as well, and decide which is best for you. And one thing I would say is that you can look at all because once the frameworks are written in JS, a lot of them you could chop and change parts, and you could build your own little version of whichever and give it your own little name to do, specifically for what you want to do. So I think, yeah, I think you can do that.
Great. So Larry, another question. Someone asked, how easy is it to update the old images to the new images? I guess they're talking about the when you're looking at the log files that have the different images.
It's easy. And I'm saying easy in the sense that if it's one image, you can just literally copy it from in the artifacts folder. You can literally copy it from the artifacts folder and place it into the visual regression baseline folder if it's just one. But let's just assume you have 100, or you make a massive change to your UI that you need the image to change from, then it have a built-in -u switch. And all that says is, take all the images you're going to get now and replace the ones in the baseline with it. And to just do it as the test run, to just do it for you. It's that simple to change. If it's 1 or 2 or 3 that's specific, you can just manually do it. If it's hundreds, you employ the -u, and that will overwrite all the images in the baseline folder.
Awesome. So next question, I think, is from Patricio. They want to know, can you go into a bit more detail about why there are so many examples of code for running locally versus running elsewhere? Looks like there's essentially 2 sets of definitions in all test cases. In all cases, are there chances that leads to issues keeping both sets of definitions in sync?
I'm not sure. I think let me answer the question. What I think he meant. Running the code locally. It just means when we say running the code locally, that means you building the test in front of you on your laptop or your desktop, as the case may be, and you running it right here on your laptop or desktop. And outside of that, then you record. We have what you call remotely. That means you do your thing, you check your code in, and it hit your CI system or your Selenium grid somewhere, as the case may be. So that's the difference between locally as opposed to everything else. It's not a matter of what we say is you're writing two separate set of codes with that does two things, one for locally and one for everything else. No, it's the same set of code. Locally, in this sense, just means you run it locally to you and you alone on your laptop in front of you. That's what locally is. And outside that, you're running your code, the code where it normally runs via your CI system or where you manually check pass it through Jenkins or something like that. So that's the difference. It doesn't have any other thing to it means. It locally just means locally in front of you while you're doing it on your laptop.
Got it. And the other way is
the
other way you're just playing a browser stack, or I believe, exactly, to run it in the cloud. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Next question's from Bala. They want to know: will it work as a record and playback type way? Will klassi-js support all browser functionality, activity like navigating to next page, buttons, etc.? I had a few issues a few years back to create a POC of a visual diff tool.
Okay, but first thing, it's not record and playback. That's the first thing. So it will never work as a record and playback where things like this. This is where you actually have to manually write all your code yourself, as the case may be, and things like that. And so it doesn't work like a record and playback. In terms of the other part of the question, in terms of you wanting to build something and where you have issues, no. This framework works exactly. I wouldn't say exactly, but it runs all the pages functionality, like switch from a page, going to an iframe, go to a tab, and everything's like that. It does all the UI functions. It have this framework, but it does it. And it's just something that if you look at WebdriverIO itself, and you look at the commands, you realize it does everything that Selenium does. I think the difference here, not the difference, but the thing here is that you need to understand that WebdriverIO is to make it simple. The WebdriverIO is Selenium inside of a wrapper for Node.js. I think that's about the simplest way I could say it. And all the functionality remains in terms of every single thing that you could do and could be done via your browser. Is the fridge klassi-js would do exactly all that for you.
Awesome. Okay, Larry, the questions keep coming. Next one is...
I will try to keep up.
Good. We use WebdriverIO with Appium and Jasmine for testing mobile apps, both on iOS and Android platforms. Do you think it would be reasonable to build/create our own framework based on WebdriverIO? We have a few helpers and utilities already, but not as much as klassi-js. Any other recommendations? Long question.
I mean, what I would say is, what you have, it works for you and it works in your environment, and is what's required, then I don't see no reason for you to go on and reinvent the wheel, as we would say. Yeah. I would suggest that you use what you have and maybe add to it accordingly. But if on the other hand you say you're looking at, okay, we have this, but this does not have all the functionality that is required that we need, then in that case you could move along and get something else. And in saying that, what I'm actually working on, I'm going to do, because WebdriverIO have a lot of mobile, I think Appium, WebdriverIO have a lot of the Appium commands under the hood as well in it for it. So I'm going to extend out the framework a little bit to do. I haven't written any mobile code for it yet because I've not had any mobile app to look at to run tests on, but I'm going to update the framework in a way that it will handle both web and mobile at the same time, because like I say, WebdriverIO in itself have RPM, I think they have most of RPM commands built in under the hood already. So the short answer would be, if what you have at the moment is working for you and it is getting the job done, then I see no reason why you go and reinvent the wheel. If on the other hand, what you have is not up to scratch with what you need, then I would suggest you look at something else. And and why not give klassi-js a try? And again, the next thing before we run off of this particular question, a lot of the functionality that help us that is built in Klassi is it was built directly from different projects over the years that I've done, where I realized that, wait a minute, you move from project to project, so you change jobs, and you realize that in your automation, you have exactly the same, you're trying to do exactly the same thing, like click on a title that appears in a random order every time a page load. So I wrote a function for that. So now it doesn't matter where in the list that name come, it will find it and click it. And so something like that, I then take that as a collection. So the helpers in klassi-js is a collection of functions that I have used over the years that I think would be beneficial to other people, and that's why I put them in there. And as time goes along, I add to it if something new pops up and I realize, oh, this is cool that a lot of people will be using, then I add it to the helpers.
Great answer. Well, Larry, quick one. Darren wants to know, is Cypress or WebdriverIO limited only to Chrome browser? Is there a workaround? Cypress is only limited to Chrome as of now. What are your thoughts on WebdriverIO?
Well, I mean, WebdriverIO, as we know, like you just said, Joe, Cypress is only limited to Chrome at the moment, and from my understanding, I think they're trying to bring in some other browsers. And that's the short answer. On the other side, WebdriverIO is like any other framework out there. It's WebdriverIO in itself is multi-browser. That is about it. It is multi-browser, so you could use it on any browser out there.
Awesome. So, Larry, we have time for, I think, one more question, and this one's from Chung. He wants to know, I hear Cypress tests are less flaky and run faster compared to Selenium WebDriver. Do you recommend running Cypress for most functional tests on Chrome and run Selenium for cross-browser testing? Not sure if this is a use case you've ever thought about.
I mean, for me, I will answer that in this way, Joe, because there's a personal thing again. I don't see the sense in using two completely different frameworks to get the same job done. And if you're going to run it in Cypress, if you're going to build a Cypress framework, and you're going to use that and do all your Chrome stuff in it, then you're going to do a next framework to run all the other things. That doesn't really make much sense to me. And I think that's a waste of resources. It's better you get one thing to do everything that you need. As the case, in this case, we're talking multi-browser. So if on the other hand you decide, you know what, Chrome is really good, is what I required as my main test point, and then you can run everything else via browser stack or source lab, then that and all is perfect. So but then as far as I understand, if you use Cypress to write the test, it still won't run on Firefox, so you still have an issue. So the answer to that is no. Don't use, if you have multi-browsers, then forget Cypress. That's my personal comment.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Larry, thanks again. Like I said, this is the first time speaker. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll do more of this. You'll join us more at other guilds. But before we go, any parting words of wisdom you want to leave the guild?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say words of wisdom. What I want to say is thanks, Joe, for actually giving me the opportunity to share some of the knowledge that I have going around in this big head of mine, and and I'll definitely be coming back to some other guilds with some better material. As we say, it was my first time, so yeah, I'm still a little shaky of it and thing, but yeah, I will be back and look at it. And as the people say, watch this space for better things with klassi-js.
Well, you rocked it. So thank you so much, Larry. I'll talk to you later. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Awesome.